All right, I'm going to try something a little different here. I'm going to capture a live trade and then watch it as it develops. And just to show you the process involved. So right now we've got the euro on the screen and we've reached this 78.6% Fibonacci and bounced off it, forming a reversal candle. The stochastic is not quite oversold, but it's getting close. Now we've just had the hour roller. Before I carry on speaking again, I'm going to enter a trade. I'm going to put one standard lot on, $100,000 at the current market price. And there you can see the order as executed at 1.094, 0941 actually. So that trade is now open, $100,000, one standard lot. So that's at just about 1-to-1 leverage on the trade. Now, let me quickly go back. This is going to be the longest part of this series. I'm going to pause the video, start it, pause it, and start it as the trade develops, or make a series of videos and string them together. But there we have the trade, 78.6% fib, the most important of all of them. We've seen that we've got a reversal candle. We've just rolled over. It's the top of the hour. It's it's 9 o'clock my time, 7 o'clock UTC. So we're approaching the end of the New York session actually. And there's the trade. You can see that's the current hour right here. It hasn't moved at all since the hour rolled over 1 minute ago. But we've got a beautiful bounce off that 78.6, just about oversold on the stochastic. And we potentially began a new uptrend over here from the 13th, actually the 11th of March. So late on Friday into Monday. And it's been very zigzaggy. Yes, it's not been very clean, but we've got an opportunity. So what I'm going to do is stop this video now, and we'll come back in a little while's time. My objective is going to be to put a stop loss in and a take profit. And as soon as we reach some profit, around 20 or 30 pips, I'm going to want to move my stop loss to break even. Okay, so we're about 21 minutes into this trade, and just a little time-lapse update. You can see the price has moved up a little bit, about 7 pips or so. So we're approaching halfway towards the point where we could move our stops to break even. Another 13 to 20 pips or so, somewhere around there, we can move stops to break even. I'm going to pause this and we'll carry on watching in about another half an hour's time. Well, it's 15 minutes later and the price is moving up as expected. So we'll just carry on keeping an eye on this. Okay, so it's almost a full hour since we entered this trade on the euro. Just 1 minute to go before the next hour candle commences, and you can see it's doing rather well. I had a quick look at, whilst we're waiting for that to happen, I had a quick look at the pound, and the same sort of things happening there. And actually, interestingly, there the hour's just rolled over, as you can see. This is the pound, and you can see where the pound got to a couple of hours ago, exactly the 78.6% Fibonacci from where we rallied. That was at about 1.3021, and we're now about 1.3045. So it's gone up about 22 pips. So if you were long on the pound of that 78.6, which some of you will have been, in fact, I've got some messages saying that some traders have adopted the 78.6 as their favorite trading level, and took this trade. So if you are in that trade, long on the pound, I suggest you move stops to break even now. Remember, we're still very much in a downtrend, even though we've broken up through this near-term moving average trend line rather on the pound. We're still very much in a downtrend. So either take profit now for 20 or 25 pips, or move your stops to break even. But back to the euro, the trade that we're in. And you can see it's looking really good. So again, perfectly off that 78. In fact, to the pip off that 78.6. Nice bullish candle the last hour, and we've just rolled over and well, hasn't moved a jot really. Let's see what the next tick will bring, the next few seconds. Nothing really. Well, the problem is in a little while's time it'll be the end of the New York session, so that's when things start to quieten down. So we may have to leave this trade until the beginning of the European session, but we'll see how it goes. You can see it's just ticking up there ever so slightly, but almost no action. But that last hour was good. So that's the update for this hour. You can see just a slight movement up. So we'll wait and see what happens, and we'll pause the video until then. Okay, so it's an hour and a half later, and not a lot has happened actually. You can see the pound retraced a bit and back down to the top side of that trend line and bounced back up, and the euro, well, after that one rally, the next hour went down and back up again, and this current hour is just stuck where it is. So nothing else to report on for now. And I'm going to turn this off and wait about 6 or 7 hours until tomorrow, because it's approaching midnight my time now. So as you can hear, I'm a little tired, and we'll see how it looks tomorrow. But no change in this euro trade. And for those of you in the pound, unless you took profit, you'd still be in the trade with your stop loss at break even. It's about an hour and a half later, and you can see we're still in both of these trades, although we've come pretty close on the euro to being at the break-even point. Haven't quite got there yet, which is around about somewhere here on the charts. So we're just hovering above that. You can see this 200 period moving average is acting as a support for the moment. Remember, our entry price was at about 10945. I think that's actually what it was, 10945. I've moved stops to break even on the euro, so we're still above there. So this trade is still open. Potentially one could have taken profit at the top here, but I didn't. I'm hoping for a move higher, but it looks precarious at the moment. The pound, for those of you who got in down here at the bottom, somewhere around here, not me, but those who did, is still holding on. Once again, big move down, but still above the break-even point. So both of these trades should now have stops at break-even, and they're looking a bit precarious. Now, what's happening a little bit later on today, at the beginning of the US session, is that the Feds are expected to hike rates, which would be good for the dollar and bad for the euro and the pound. However, if they decide to hike them less than expected or not at all, then we should see a rally in the euro and the pound. Or if they do hike rates and a little bit more than expected, we should see the pound and the euro dropping down quite dramatically. So I guess we're probably going to wait to see what happens. A lot of this will be toing and froing now before the rates announcement. So let's see what happens. You can see in the last 20 minutes, 15 minutes or so, that the euro and the pound have quickly rallied. I'm not sure what would have caused this, perhaps just a short squeeze. So let's see how this hourly candle works out. It'll be 40 minutes from now before the hour rollover, but we've moved to a new recent high on the euro. When I say recent, I mean just in the last number of hours. So we'll have to see what happens next, and I'll update at the top of the hour. Okay, so it's 8 minutes until the top of the hour, and I see the euro struggling a bit there. My strategy right now, because we've got the Fed interest rates decision coming out a little later, and an overall bearish sentiment on the euro, and more problems seem to be occurring in the Ukraine. because of all of that, I'm going to take profit on the euros just around 50, 52 pips, 55 pips now. I'm going to take profit on the euro. I haven't done it just yet, so it's moving up again. So 945. Yeah, so it's around 50 pips. So time to take profit on the euro, and then the pound, if you're in that, which I'm not, which I keep on saying with Rue, it's probably worth holding on to. But if you did get in the pound at 1.302 and you're at 1.3067 now, that's also around 50 pips. So if you're in both of these trades, you could take profit on both of them for 100 pips, and that's a really good trade, and probably all you need for the entire week, really. So it's up to you. I think if I was in the pound, I'd probably take profit as well. But you never know. These might have a little bit more strength in them yet and carry on going up. But I'm going to call it quits on those for now. But we'll carry on updating and monitoring and see what happens. So for the record, out of the euro, I'm out of the market altogether. For those of you who want to hold on, let's see what happens. If you're in the pound, well, you've got 50 pips in the bag. You can either hold on or wait a little bit. I'll leave that up to you. It's your decision. So I'll update again in about an hour from now. Okay, so it's midday where I am, and let's just have a look at 7 p.m. Tokyo. So that session's over a few hours ago. It's 10 a.m. London. So the London session started just a little while back, and that's where you will have seen this big move. That's basically the opening of London. And it's 6 a.m. in New York, so there's another 3 hours or so to go before New York opens, and we find out what's going on with interest rates during the New York session. As far as this trade goes, remember what I said earlier on in this video, that I was taking profit? Well, we've not moved anywhere since that sort of level. In fact, if anything, we've just dropped down a bit. So I'm going to carry on monitoring these trade positions as if we were still in the euro, and for those of you who are in the pound are still in the pound. And we'll just see how this plays out of interest's sake. Well, it's just 3 minutes before the top of the hour. This is the following hour. And just for a time update, so you can see what's going on, it's 1 o'clock Joburg time, 7:45 in the evening Tokyo time, not 7:45, 2 minutes to 8, 2 minutes to 7 a.m. New York time, and 2 minutes to 11 London time. So, and it's 1 o'clock here. So just having a look at what's going on after that, we've really only had one big move today so far. That was a couple of hours ago. That was that big move up on the euro and the pound. There, well, not so much the pound, but more so the euro. And we still at more or less where I closed my trade. So we haven't gone up. We did peak up a little bit shortly after that last update, and it's just fallen back down again. Same with the pound, just a little spike higher, but not much. If you look at the euro, really, I have to say it looks like it might be running out of gas for an upward movement, and it might even be worth considering a short trade. And I'm going to quickly get rid of this fib. And obviously we've got a horizontal line in place here, this resistance area, which in fact we're at right now. And then also if I put a Fibonacci in, it's bound to be some sort of fib retracement level of this move up. Yes, it is. It's the 78.6. There we go again. We've been in luck with those. So we're at we've just hit 78.6% of this move down from there down to here, and we've moved 78.6% back up again. So we're now in a downtrend, apart from this 200 moving average. We've hit a resistance. We've hit the 78.6, my favorite, as I always say. And we've also got an overbought stochastic. So we could be, if you're still in this long trade, looking to exit that and to sell. So that might be the next trade of the day. So looking to sell the euro in the next, well, it could be right now, in fact, whilst we're here. The hour's about to roll over. And actually, what I'm going to do is take a short position as soon as I pause this video. We've got a spike high. We've got the overbought stochastic. We've got the 78.6. There, we've just rolled over the hour. I'm going to wait for a little move back up slightly, or perhaps just take half the position where we are now. Maybe we might get a little bounce up to the top of this candle here, up to about 1.005, somewhere around there, and then a move down. So, new strategy for the euro: exit if you're still in. I've already exited at 50 pips profit, and now I'm short. I will be in a few seconds once I finish with this video. And I think the pound we can leave for now. But if you are in the pound still long, I suggest you just close that trade and take your profit. So that's it. New trade update, and I'll speak soon. It's 1:45 my time, and it's 1:45. Let's call it 9 Tokyo time in the evening. And it's 10 to 8, 7:45 in New York, and the same before 12 in London. So we're right in the middle of the London session, and about, well, shortly we'll start with the New York session. So we can see from the charts that the euro and the pound have both moved up a bit more. And again, if you're still in any of these trades, then it's worth holding on to them. We'll see what happens. Pound's moved up rather nicely, actually. It's the biggest move of the day so far. The euro hasn't moved up as dramatically, but it's still pretty good. And we'll see what happens at the top of this hour in about 10 minutes' time, and then going on into the New York session. All right, so it's the just after the start of the next hour, and you can see that the euro has retreated from that resistance line. Let me just put this on the screen. That resistance line there is a previous brown line that I've drawn in, just a horizontal line. But it also happens to be the 50% Fibonacci of the move down from this high down to that low, and that's the 50% level. So I'm going to sell the euro right now with stops above this level at about 1.103, somewhere there. Actually, let's make it 1.104. So we're above that 61.8% fib. And I'm going to sell at the current price. And we'll see where that takes us. As for the pound, oops, pressed the wrong button there. Didn't want that. As for the pound, well, we've broken up above that resistance, but we are up at this downward trend line. We can get rid of this one so long. So there's that longer term downward trend line, and we've just bumped up against it. So it's also looking bearish, and it'll probably follow the same suit as the euro. So it's worth having a little bash at a short position on the pound as well. We have what you could consider a spike high followed by a spike low, so one up, one down. So it's a good time to sell the pound right this minute with a small stop loss above this recent high, so at about 1.31, that is. So 1.3110 I think would be a good stop loss. And we're about 1.3090 now, so that would be a 20 pip stop loss. It's worth it for a quick trade, and we're going in the right direction. There's the 200 period moving average at the same place, so a very good resistance area where we are at the moment. I'm just going to delete this line so it doesn't confuse us. So you can see right there. And we've also had 3 good waves down. 1, 2, 3. So we might be entering a five wave Elliott sequence, but don't worry too much about that. So the strategy is sell the pound right now. Stops above the trend line. You can get away with a 20 pip or 25 pip stop loss. And then also to sell the euro. See, it's moved down already a little bit. So I'm going to pause this video and go right across to my trade station on my live account. All right, so super quick update. Remember, we're short on the euro, not on the pound, but oh yes, I did take a small trade on the pound. Yes, that's right. Just forgot about that for a second. So both of these we're short. Actually, looking at the pound, not just because it's now working out, but this is a great area to sell the pound at, this 50% retracement. And with that 200 period moving average and the trend line and the overbought stochastic, and on top of that, even better, a pair of reversal candles, in other words, corroborated by the price action that we're seeing there. So yeah, so that's the pound. Looking good so far, actually. I think my entry price was 87. Oh, it's only 10 pips. It's not really, hasn't gone very far. But the right sort of thing. Euro, it's about where I got in yeah. And unfortunately, as I'm talking right now, it's just bounced up again a little bit. But let's have a look at the time. And it's after 10 o'clock New York. So we'll just have to see what happens. I think these might be okay, but we'll have to see. All right, well, another update in an hour or two from now. Right, well, we got taken out of the euro with this big spike high, and unfortunately that took that trade out. Not a big loss, but a small loss in any case. And the pound, we just managed to stay in. And both of these have formed big spike highs. It's now 1:45 the hour. So I'm going to keep on this pound trade short, and if this stays the way it looks at the moment with a massive spike high on the euro at the top of the hour, we'll give it 15 minutes or so to see what happens. I'm going to be selling the euro again. It's just a pity we got this false break above the resistance line with this big spike. It looks big on this chart, but it's not actually that big. Overall, if you spread the chart out like this, it's not really a huge spike, but when I've got the chart narrow, it just looks big. But anyway, it just took our stop loss out by a wee bit. But so be it. And we'll have a chance to enter back again short in 15 minutes time, if the pattern looks like it does at the moment. The pound we'll just hold on to. Okay, well, it's the top of the hour, and we're still in the pound. I think it's time to sell the euro, as discussed a short while back. Stops above that spike high, so I'm going to go across and do that on my own trade station. And targets I haven't set yet. All right, so another quick update. Just to give you a time reference here, it's 5 to 7 my time. 5 to 2 a.m. in Tokyo, just about 1 o'clock, just after midday, 1 o'clock afternoon, New York, and 5 o'clock in London. So it's the close of the London session shortly, and there's a little bit of time left in New York. So let's have a look at what's going on. The pound, well, it's rallied a bit. It's coming close to being stopped out, but it's not quite there yet. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. The euro dropped beautifully in the last hour. We've got about 4 minutes to go before this hour closes. And we're still hovering near the bottom of the previous candle. That's this one over here. So we had this big bearish candle, and now, despite a pullback, a bounce, it's been very, very choppy the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 hours. We've gone nowhere but sideways, but with large swings in between the hours. So I would imagine this is all just waiting for the rates announcement. And in fact, one can go across to this news channel whilst we wait for that to load. And you won't be able to see all of it, but anyway, they're talking about a 0.25% hike in interest rates in the US, so I'm not sure how the market will react to that. We'll have to wait and see. But for the moment, the euro is okay. The pound's looking a bit difficult. Just poking through that trend line, that long-term trend line, but it hasn't closed above there. There it is there. If I just zoom out on the chart, that's one we had a look at earlier. And we're still overbought on the stochastic. And ideally in the next 5 minutes, 3 minutes now, we want to see this candle, this current candle on the pound, close beneath that trend line. And that's what one would hope for. If we close above it in the same sort of position as we are in now, at the same sort of price, that wouldn't be very good for this pound trade. But we've got 3 minutes left. Let's see what happens. And then I'll update again in another hour or so. That's looking a little bit better now. Even though the pound did close above that trend line, it's somehow managed to drop back down again. It's just a few seconds before the rollover of the hour, but you can see we've just poked up through that trend line and back down. Trend lines aren't as precise as horizontal lines. That's one thing that one has to remember. So they're slightly more of an estimate than horizontal lines. And as we're recording this, you can see there's a large plunge downwards. In about half an hour, or is it now, is the Fed rate announcement. I think it's happening right as we speak, in fact. So let's watch this for a few seconds and see what happens. You can see there's a lot of activity. Yeah, so actually I might have got the time wrong. So it's 2 p.m. New York. I thought it was 2:30. So it looks like we've just got the announcement. Let's go across to the news and have a wee look and see if there's anything there. Come on. No. Maybe it's just a bit slow. There was a sudden flurry of movement. I'm not sure if it's been announced already, if it's in half an hour. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, you can see there is some activity, perhaps just because it's the rollover of the hour prior to the Fed announcement at in half an hour's time. Here we go. It's been announced. So what does it say? Interest rates raised the first time since 2018. And I imagine that this is just a statement. Right, I'm not quite sure what's going on. Okay, there we go. It's been raised by 0.25%. From 0.25 to 50. Okay, so that's what we saw on the chart. So I was half an hour late on it, but anyway, funny enough, we managed to get on. So that's why all the flurry going on in the charts. It's worth spending, I know it's turning into a slightly longer video this, but let's see what happens. Now, all of this up and down is due to people making decisions. Is this what was expected? Is it not expected? Would they have perhaps held back on the interest rate rise? Was it according to expectations, or was it different to expectations? What effect will this have on the economy? What effect will it have on commodity prices and savings and credit lending and all that sort of thing. So let's just see what's happened. I expect it's in line with expectations, which won't be terribly damaging to the dollar. Sorry, to the euro and the pound. So it's probably, I doubt we'll see any great rally in the dollar, actually, but it might just edge down. We've got the other problem in Ukraine hovering over us all the time, and that will probably have more of an effect on these two currencies than the interest rates. Okay, so whilst that faffs around, it's going to do it for another half an hour or so and try and settle down in one direction or the other. So by the time we get back, we'll find out what the market has decided in its wisdom about what this 0.25% interest rate hike means to the currency market. Well, this is turning out to be quite a wild ride. And you can see that we've had massive spikes on both the euro and the pound downwards. It's been up, then down, then up, then down. So the market still hasn't settled. There's about 10 minutes to go before the top of this hour, and we'll see what happens. It may well have, so both of these currencies actually reached 50 pips in profit. And it may well have been that you took profit at near the lows of that move down, and would have made sense to do so. I'll tell you why on the pound, for example. So if I put a trend line in, where are you, trend line? There we go. If you put a trend line in from the bottom here, like that, that's precisely where the pound spiked down to, that upward trend line. Now, I don't want to tell you this because I know you're watching this video in hindsight because I've recorded it for that reason. But I've actually taken profit on both of these trades. And because I'm only sending this video out, 12 hours later, I was not able to update you with that. But what I had in here was a trend line for both of these currencies. So actually I had that trend line over there, just cutting off the wick of that lower one. You could have put the trend line here, of course, which would have made it close slightly, well, spike to slightly above the trend line, but it did reach the 200 period moving average. So I actually put it kind of there on that 200 period moving average, which is the sensible place to put it. And that's where I took profit on both of these trades. But let's just pretend that I didn't, because I obviously haven't sent an alert out. This was just a video to illustrate the trades. So with that having been said, let's just continue to watch what happens with these trades and see if there's any upside for those who might still be in it. But at least I hope you would have moved stops to break even, in which case the pound trade would now be closed for no win and no loss. And the euro trade, well, pretty close to that break-even point if you have moved your stops to break-even. But I want to watch to see what happens. If you're still in these trades, then you may as well just wait and see how it goes. If you haven't moved your stops to break-even and you're still in the original positions, there's still a pretty good chance that they'll carry on moving down. I think the next hour will determine what happens, really. So I'm getting a little croaky. It's late at night now. And I've been working really for the last 24 hours with a brief nap along the way. So I'll speak to you and update you again as soon as there's something interesting. Well, I think this is going to be the final video in this sort of time lapse, and I'm just going to show you what I've done. So, it depends on whether you're still in the trade, whether you moved stops to break even, whether you took profit at that lower trend line that I talked about, and all those sorts of things. And it's the way you manage trades that's really important. And you could have 100 people with the same trading strategy, same entry points and so on, who make different decisions along the way. And I've tried to fill you in on the type of decision-making process that I go through in an admittedly long and arduous trading period. But the end result of that was 50 pips on the trade on the way up. They were talking about the euro. I didn't get the pound. And then 50 pips on the euro on the way down, so that's 100. And for those of you, excuse me, who traded the pound, oh, and I got 50 on the pound, so that's 150, including the trade on the way down earlier on this video and the pound. So 150 pips, that's really my work done, including the earlier profits in this month. That's my work done for the month. So it's been a 24-hour, arduous, long, grueling, and tiresome and tricky period of trading, but that's how I've managed to trade my way to the completion of the month. Now, if you'd taken the trade that I did and got out roughly the same time, you would have had the same result. If you did different things, and there are countless different things you could have done, then you'll have a different result. And the two simple things could have been not taking profit, could have been moving stops to break even, it could have been taking profit in one of the earlier trades or not, or moving. For example, I lost the first euro trade, so it's not 150 pips, actually 120 pips. But if you combine that with 100 and something pips I made during last week, then we're into about 260 pips for the month, and that's roughly my target. But what I've done now, just to show you what I've done on the euro, and this is, I'm going to sign off this video in this time lapse. You can see on the euro, this is the hourly chart, we've got an overall bearish market, although we have broken above the 200 period moving average, but generally a bearish market. And what you see is I just duplicated this lower trend line, the one that we bounced off. I just copied it with, there's a facility on the chart here where you can just go, you can right click on it, and there's a little thingy there that says clone over here, and it makes an identical line, the same angle, and come on, we don't want you there. And then I just moved that slightly higher up to the top level of this zigzaggy thing that we've had over the last while, over the last couple of days, and you can see we've got a channel. It's actually called a flag. It's a trading pattern, which is a rising flag, two parallel lines which act as the top and the bottom of the channel that we're in, and that's called a flag. That's a bearish pattern, and because of everything that's going on around in terms of interest rates in the US, and in terms of, which have just been raised, and in terms of war in Ukraine, I've decided to take a final short trade on the euro from the current price, and I wanted to show you that right now, but the little thing, oh, there it is. Okay, so I've taken short at 10031. This is just on the demo account because I want to illustrate this. It's about 7 pips in the negative, so but that's okay. And I'm going to place my stop loss above the top of this channel and above this spike high here, and I'm going to put it at let's just zoom in, and you can do the same sort of thing on the pound if you have a closer look at that. I'm not going to trade the pound, so I really want it above that spike, above this Fibonacci level, this green level, which is where we spiked up to, and the top of this channel. So we want it somewhere up here at about 1.105. So I'm going to go back into there and just modify this and put the stop loss in it at 1.105. All right, so that's 55 pips. Now it might sound large, but you'll notice I've only put one unit, well, one standard unit of 100,000 in Oanda. Every dollar as a unit. This is one standard unit in normal trading accounts. And so that gives me, you can see the account balance is now 101,519 and 70 cents. So it gives me a leverage of 1 to 1, which is half of my normal position size. And therefore the 55 pip stop loss is actually equivalent to a 27.5 pip stop loss, which is small. So let's just move this down a wee bit. And so I just kind of wanted to illustrate to you that, yes, it took me a lot of effort to extract those few hundred pips out of the market during this month, because we've had a particularly tricky day today, the last 24 hours, whilst I've been recording this, but also it's been overall quite a tricky month, particularly with what's going on geopolitically. So the pound, again, let me just illustrate to you, we've broken above this downward trend line, so let's get rid of that. And then this one, let's just see if we've got a channel. I know this is quite a long video, but there, I just press clone, there's the same line. And, whoops, I don't want to move that. That wasn't my intent. I'm trying to get to that trend line. This one. And if I move that to the top, you can see I've actually got a channel going there as well. So the pound's also in a channel, and if I sell the pound right now, I'm selling right at the top of this channel, which might also be considered a bearish flag. However, because I'm in the euro already, I don't really want to take two trades short against the dollar simultaneously when we've clearly had a move of intent higher. So I think I'm going to stick with the euro, but, well, let me put a trade in anyway, just to illustrate. So we're right at the top of this channel. There's a bit of movement above us, a bit of space to go to the 78.6. Perhaps that's a better place to take a trade. But we literally can get in with a tiny stop loss. So what I'm going to do, a minute stop loss on this, I can sell the pound, and I'm going to put $100,000 on that one as well. We'll come back to the stop loss shortly. That should go in. And then let's just have a look more closely at the stop loss. We just want to be above this level here where we spiked up earlier. That's all, nothing more than that. So this is a very, very tight stop loss trade, and 1.3130, I think will do fine. 1.3135, let's go for that. And then that'll wrap up this video, and then so let's put the 1.3135, and that's 22 pips, again with a half of my normal position, so effectively equivalent to 10 pips really, which won't make any difference to anyone if it's a win or a lose at that sort of level. But if it's a winner and it goes with some vigor in our direction and breaks through the slower channel trend line and starts moving lower, we might get 100 pips out of it, maybe a bit more if it goes with some aplomb. All right, so that's it. I hope you found this little sort of time-lapse video. It's not that little, actually, it's quite long, but I think it's going to be useful for you, and it'll give you some good insight into trading and how I go about tackling the month's work. And sometimes, not always, but sometimes it requires an intensive, long, and quite tricky session with a certain amount of agility and nimbleness needed to extract what you need out of the market. But you can see it can be done, and I've done it. So this month, it's the 16th. We're halfway through the month. And if I didn't take another trade again this month, I'd be quite happy with it. But I've taken these two little trades just because there's almost no downside to them, and there's plenty of upside if we keep on moving down. And the main thing that's influencing me on this, I have to admit, is the problem in Ukraine right now. And the downside is much larger than the upside. So, all right, well, that's that then. And so watch this video slowly, watch it again if you need to, and I think you'll pick up some interesting things along the way and interesting tips. So, and also just to give you an insight as to how things work when you're trading. It's not all fun and games. Sometimes there are long, hard slogs. You've got to be alert and pay attention, and be, as I said, be nimble and agile. But if you can get through those difficult sessions and actually make them work for you and extract some money out of them, that's kind of how I go about doing it. I'm not saying you should, but it's a good approach to the markets. So there we go. That's that. 2 trades on. Got stop losses in. I can go to bed now. If they don't get stopped out, it'll be great. I'll wake up in the morning and start to manage the trades again. If they get stopped out, well, that's it. We then relook at everything again and decide what to do next, if anything, because as I said, I've made my target for the month, but I might just obviously carry on illustrating trades for the purposes of my followers. So, all right, well, good night, good luck, and yeah, well, I hope you got to the end of this video. See you later.